When you say I want to manifest something, what you're saying is I want to have something show up in my physical world so I can experience it and translate it and interpret it with my physical senses. That's what you're really saying. Yeah, so we live in what we would consider a seeming world. So it seems like there's me over here, and then there's this outside world over there. And in that reality, in that viewpoint or that perception or perceptive of reality, it's a little bit scary because it's me versus that or that versus me. And it seems like there's me over here, and then there's this thing called the world that's out there. But as one begins to penetrate this conversation or penetrate this perception or this awareness of this worldview, which for most people isn't their worldview, it's just kind of how they find themselves in this point in their life. As they begin to question this, what they begin to find out is ultimately what they find out is that what they had thought was the true nature of reality, which was my external world, was in fact not very real in and of itself. And quantum physics now and science has caught up to us so well to let us know, like, well, that whole stuff out there that you're calling your external world, we've discovered that it's almost completely vacuous and empty. There isn't any stuff out there. And in fact, we can't even find something quantifiable that's considered out there in order for the stuff to actually exist in. So it's even a little funkier than even the first notion can show you. So when you go from a reality of thinking, well, there's me over here and there's this place called the world out there, and I need to find a way to make my way and survive in this thing called the physical world, and then you begin to penetrate that and discover, first of all, like that thing that's out there is not alive. All of it is dead. The only thing that's real that's going on out there is you could call it your experience of that reality. Your experience of that reality is reality. That's what reality is. But the stuff out there and the props that you've put in aren't real. They're just stuff, and they're manifestations of previous thoughts and feelings from yourself and other people, and the makes up whatever that on the ontological playground or the playground of the mind of thinking of it as just your consciousness out there on blast. You're looking at that. And so once you recognize that it's not that way, and you have an ability by changing the way that you feel and changing the way that you think, then you can start to notice that outward experience of your reality begins to change, and your experience of it becomes, most importantly, more fulfilling and more happy and more fun and more joyful, as opposed to in this other ideal or this other model where there's you versus the world. It can be a little bit scary. It can be overwhelming at times. It can be real bumpy a lot of times. And it's, you know, me versus the world is not a real fun game to be playing. It's just, it's like getting into a yacht that's destined to leave the harbor and sink. There's kind of a hopelessness about that for us as humans. So it's really, really important to begin to play with these notions of your nature of reality and how you experience your reality, because it would be pretty difficult to notice that everything that you're experiencing in your external world is your mind. You're looking at your consciousness out there, and you're just playing with it from different perspectives ongoingly when you're feeling scared and separated, and this kind of you versus the world concept. So we've again. I'm gonna start this off with how it seems. It seems like we're living in a reality where there's me as a separate individual. There's a physical world out there separate from me, and then there's a thing called my past, and then there's this thing called right now, and then there's a thing called my future. But as you look at this how we find ourselves and how it seems, that model doesn't support your ability to have something show up or manifest, if you will, from a thought form, because it seems like there's a physical, hard world out there that needs to conjure things and takes time to put things together. And So if I want to manifest something, then I have to go from what I've been thinking and doing to understanding what's missing or what's needed for me to manufacture or create this thing that I want for myself. And then as some linear earth conceptual time goes by, then I'll be able to have that thing that I've wanted to manifest if I work hard enough. That's kind of the model how we find ourselves in right now. And if you listen in the culture, whether you're in Tokyo, Japan, or Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, when people start to want to manifest something and there's somebody that's going to be involved with them, the first words out of their mouth is, I'll work real hard, I'll sacrifice, I'll give up my children, I won't ever eat again until this is done. And there's this kind of incessant hunger and drive to work real hard and overcome whatever you need to overcome in the physical universe to make this thing manifest. Well, that's how most people are doing it, and that's why most of them are falling over at early ages, because it's exhausting. That's exhausting. And sometimes it works, but most all the time it doesn't. And even when it does, it takes such an exorbitant long amount of time. And, it's just when a lot of times what I notice is people that are even successful in getting things from that model, even when they get it, they're unfulfilled. That was my experience of it, is I used a lot of force to try to overcome the resistance in the physical universe. And so when I would get something, I would be unfulfilled with it because I had to exert so much force and wipe out so many things to get that thing that I wanted. But in this model, when you're talking about this model now, where what your reality and what you're seeing out there that occurs to be is just your consciousness pushed out for you to look at and to view. And what you begin to see as you begin to play with this model this way is when it comes to this creation, or when it comes to this law of attraction, and by law of attraction, I'm just kind of loosely saying having a thought that I want or something that I've asked for show up for me to experience in the physical world, because that's really what we're saying. When you say I want to manifest something, what you're saying is I want to have something show up in my physical world so I can experience it and translate it and interpret it with my physical senses. That's what you're really saying. So in this model that I'm offering here, which is I guess you call it a new model, or the new age model, or this present time model, is this world out there that's existing is an extension of my consciousness. And if there's something in there that I don't like or something in there that I like, I can appreciate and enjoy from an emotional standpoint the things that I do like. And as I begin to appreciate and enjoy those things that I do like, that I see, well, then the way the nature of this energy works is what you focus your attention on, it expands and becomes more. So if you then begin to filter out and focus on the things that you enjoy and that you're embracing that feel good to you, then you're going to get more of that. And if you begin to focus on those things that are in your consciousness that you don't like or you don't enjoy, then you're going to get more of that. I wish it was much more complicated, because we're talking about quantum mechanics and then we go to this simplicity model, but it really is that simple. And as you begin to focus your attention on these things that feel good to you, then the things that feel good to you get bigger, and the things that don't feel good, well, what happens to them is they begin to disappear from lack of attention. So wherever your attention gets focused on, you're getting more of. It's almost like Superman when he'd focus his beam of his radar, his laser eyes, then that thing would get bigger or disappear or whatever he wanted to do with it. Our consciousness and our focus is the same kind of way. As we focus our attention on something, it becomes bigger and more real and gathers mass and becomes more possibly or more capable of becoming something that manifests in the physical world. So you focus on something long enough, and remember, the universe doesn't have a good opinion or a bad opinion about it. It just has you focused on this long enough to have it. What I would say is you focus on it long enough, good or bad, and then eventually it busts through into the physical world as a manifestation that you're now interpreting with your senses. So all of it, every last bit of it, all of it came from your previous thoughts and feelings about that thing that you're now experiencing out there. So it wouldn't make sense for you to understand that your consciousness is what you're looking at out there, and that if you had something in there that you didn't like, If you go out there, and this is how most human beings are living their life, you go out there and try to fix and change all the circumstances and events and people that are out there in your consciousness, and you're trying to change them so you can feel good. But what happens is you find out that you're exhausted trying to change them all, because once you change one of them, three more of them disappear and turn into something else that's bothering you or causing you difficulty. Now you got to go fix and change those things over there. And pretty soon you begin to realize that if you were looking at a movie and you start to look at it like a movie, you're basically looking at the movie on the screen called your life. And as you're looking at that movie and you're sitting with me and you're right next to me in the front row, if I were to say, hold my popcorn, and I got up and I went to the screen, I tried to change things around, and I came back and sat down, and you said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm trying to make that guy stop acting that way. You would say, you can't do it up there on the screen. You have to do it back in the projector on the reel that's producing the movie out there. But what's happened to us is we've lost track of the sight that we're actually watching the movie of our life out there, and we don't know that there's a projector that's playing. So we get lost out here in this consciousness cosmic playground called our consciousness pushed outwards from us. So, one of the things about this understanding of consciousness and manifestation is that there's a less effort and less kind of worn outness about it, and it's a model that's available for anybody. But there's also a timing in this model. There's people who aren't ready to give up or aren't ready to stop working hard and getting up early and running all the laps and doing all the meditation and drinking the raw eggs. And there's nothing wrong with that model of being alive. It's an attempt to overcome the resistance of the physical universe with effort. And what I'm saying is, if you want to move out of that model and move into this model where you're actually manifesting things that are really dear and true to you, and things that you want to actually deliberately and intentionally show up for you to have an experience of, and begin to enjoy the journey of those things manifesting in your universe for you and others in your life to experience. Let's get on a phone call. Just click on the link below, and you can find out on this phone call the simplicity of this model, and you can start participating in this model almost immediately. There's practices that come with it. There's a little shift in consciousness as you kind of transition from you versus the world to you being part of and in the world. But the side effects of this model, of this program, is there's a lot more joy, there's a lot more effortlessness, there's a lot more fun, there's a lot more excitement, there's a lot more enthusiasm, and there's a lot more certainty and sense of confidence that comes to a human being when they begin to realize that they can create anything they want simply by recognizing how they've been thinking and how they've been feeling, and then beginning to use different models and practices to change how they're thinking and how they're feeling about things in their world, and have things show up for them on purpose. It's really powerful.